Reading through the Bible, Exodus 1. These are the names of the sons of Israel who entered Egypt with Jacob, each with his family: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. The descendants of Jacob numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. Now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died, but the Israelites were fruitful and multiplied greatly and became exceedingly numerous, so that the land was filled with them. Then a new king who did not know about Joseph came to power in Egypt. "Look," he said to his people, "the Israelites have become much too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous, and if war breaks out, will join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country." So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor, and they built Pithom and Ramses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. They made their lives bitter with hard labor in brick and mortar and with all kinds of work in the fields. In all their hard labor, the Egyptians used them ruthlessly. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, "When you help the Hebrew women in childbirth and observe them on the delivery stool, if it is a boy, kill him, but if it is a girl, let her live." The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, "Why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live?" The midwives answered Pharaoh, "Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive." So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave the order to all his people, "Every boy that is born you must throw into the river, but let every girl live." Now a man of the house of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the river bank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her slave girl to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. And the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." Notice here that the Hebrews were becoming very numerous. Of course, this is what God said would happen in Egypt, and the Egyptians became alarmed because they were afraid that if there was an attack from outside, that the Hebrews would join them and would become strong enough to leave the land. So they tried to prevent this. And Pharaoh used a couple of different tactics to reduce the number. First, he appealed to the midwives. Now, we know from the paintings that we have in Egypt that there was a big difference physically between the Egyptian women, who were usually painted as very dainty people, and the Hebrews, who were stocky and well built. And so the midwives used this as the reason for their not killing the boys. But then the command was to throw all of the boys into the Nile River. Now this, of course, took it out of the hands of the midwives. And we are told that there was a Levite woman who gave birth to a son, and she believed this son was exceptional. Now, it isn't just that she felt he was a good son, because most of the time you'll find that women who give birth think that their sons are the best in the world. But there seemed to be something unusual about this son. So she actually carries out the demand of the king. She got a papyrus basket, waterproofed it, put the child in it, and then put him into the Nile River. So that fulfilled the obligation she had of throwing the boy into the river. This was when the Pharaoh's daughter was coming to bathe in the river, and she was with her servants. She saw the basket and told one of them to obtain it. When they opened it, they found that there was a Hebrew baby in it. The sister of Moses was watching, and so she asked Pharaoh's daughter if she would like her to get a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby. She was in favor of this, and so the girl got the mother of Moses. So the mother of Moses continued to nurse the child until he was older, perhaps until he was weaned, and then he took her to Pharaoh's daughter, and she adopted him as her own son. So that is what we read here, that Moses was given the name Moshe, because this is the Hebrew word that means to draw out. She drew him out of the water.